First Contact's price. The Vanguard's arrival shattered humanity's dreams of a peaceful first contact. Their ships appeared as perfect geometric crystalline structures, emerging from fold space in a precise hexagonal formation above Earth's major cities. Commander Elena Torres watched from the bridge of the ESS Starcolor as the alien vessels positioned themselves with mathematical precision, their movements so exact they seemed to mock the relatively crude orbits of human satellites. They're not even trying to hide their superiority, Lieutenant Marcus Chen muttered, his fingers dancing across the tactical display. Look at those energy readings. Each ship is putting out enough power to run North America for a year. Elena said nothing, her dark eyes fixed on the largest of the crystal ships. Something about their perfection bothered her, not just the obvious technological gap, but something deeper. In her 15 years of space service, she'd learned that nature abhorred such precision. Even the most advanced human computers introduced tiny variations in their calculations. These ships moved as if they were all parts of a single equation. The first transmission from the Vanguard came exactly 6 hours after their arrival, broadcast simultaneously to every communication device on Earth. Their message was simple. Humanity had been judged and found wanting. Earth would be optimized, their term for what amounted to colonization under the guise of uplifting a primitive species. They're completing their sensor sweep of Earth's defensive capabilities, Dr. Yuki Tanaka reported from her science station. The quantum physicist had been studying the Vanguard's technology since their arrival. Their scan patterns are interesting, perfectly predictable. They're using basic geometric progressions to map our entire planet. Elena leaned forward. Predictable. How so? Their scanning pattern follows the Fibonacci sequence exactly, Yuki explained, pulling up a visualization. No deviations, no adjustments for terrain or atmospheric conditions. It's as if they don't believe they need to account for natural variations. That was the detail that had been nagging at Elena. The Vanguard operated with a level of precision that defied natural law. Even quantum computers had to account for uncertainty principles, but these aliens seemed to ignore such limitations. The Starkiller wasn't supposed to be humanity's last hope. The experimental vessel, with its revolutionary chaos drive, a propulsion system that deliberately introduced quantum uncertainty into its calculations, was meant to be a research platform. But now, as Elena watched the Vanguard methodically positioning their fleet for Earth's optimization, she wondered if their greatest weakness might be their greatest strength. Dr. Tanaka. Elena called. How do you think their systems would handle unpredictable quantum fluctuations? Yuki's eyes widened as she caught the commander's meaning. The chaos drive. It's untested for combat operations. We barely understand how it works ourselves. It's more art than science. Exactly, Elena smiled. And when was the last time you saw anything artistic about our visitors? The next 12 hours were a blur of preparation. While Earth's governments attempted diplomatic negotiations, all met with the same precisely worded dismissals. The Starcolor's crew worked to modify their chaos drive. They weren't engineers or warriors anymore. They were artists, composing a symphony of quantum uncertainty. The Vanguard gave Earth 48 hours to surrender. They delivered the ultimatum with the same mathematical precision that marked everything they did, even including a countdown accurate to the microsecond. They didn't bother posting guards around their fleet. Their scans had shown nothing on Earth capable of threatening their technology. They hadn't scanned for chaos. All stations report ready, Marcus announced, his voice tight with tension. Around the bridge, the Starcolor's crew had abandoned their usual military precision. Each station had been deliberately randomized, controls rearranged in patterns that defied logic. Even the ship's lighting pulsed in irregular patterns. Dr. Tanaka. Status of the chaos drive. Unpredictable. Yuki replied with a grin. Quantum fluctuations are at maximum sustainable levels. We're generating enough uncertainty to make Schrödinger's cat dizzy. Elena took a deep breath. Tactical. Target the nearest Vanguard vessel. Let's show them why sometimes the best mathematics include imaginary numbers. The Starcolor's first shot shouldn't have been possible according to every known law of physics. The Chaos Drive didn't just power their engines. It infused every system with quantum uncertainty. Their weapons didn't fire in straight lines. They followed probability paths that existed in superposition until observed. The Vanguard ship never saw it coming. Their perfect defenses were calibrated to stop attacks that followed logical trajectories. The blast from the Starcolor's main gun existed in multiple states simultaneously, somehow both hitting and missing until the moment of impact collapsed all possibilities into one spectacular explosion. Alarms blared across the bridge as the Vanguard fleet responded, their formations shifting with geometric precision to counter this unexpected threat. But there was no pattern to counter. The Starcolor moved like a leaf in a hurricane, its course dictated by quantum dice rolls and human intuition. "They're trying to predict our movements," Marcus reported, laughing as another perfect formation broke apart trying to track their impossible course. "Their targeting algorithms are having a meltdown." Elena watched as the mighty Vanguard fleet, with all its technological superiority, found itself unable to deal with a single human vessel that refused to play by the rules of reality. They had built their civilization on the foundation of mathematical certainty, never considering that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe was chaos itself. "Send a message to Earth Command," Elena ordered as the Starcolor danced between enemy vessels, each shot creating new probabilities that defied the Vanguard's perfect calculations. "Tell them we've found our advantage. The Vanguard's greatest strength is their perfect precision. And that's exactly why they'll never understand the power of human improvisation." The battle for Earth had begun, and humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or firepower. It was their ability to embrace chaos, to find beauty in imperfection, and to turn uncertainty itself into an art form that no amount of mathematical precision could counter. The mathematics of war. Word of the Starcolor's impossible victory spread through the Vanguard fleet like a virus in their perfect systems. Their response was immediate and precisely calculated. 1,000 crystalline ships moved in unison, forming intricate geometric patterns designed to trap and eliminate the human vessel that dared to defy mathematical certainty. Commander Elena Torres watched the enemy formations with a mixture of awe and satisfaction. Each Vanguard ship pulsed with energy readings that matched their siblings down to the quantum level. Their movements formed perfect fractals in space, beautiful but utterly predictable. "They're adapting their strategies," Lieutenant Chen reported from Tactical. "New formation patterns emerging. They're trying to account for our quantum fluctuations." "Let them try," Dr. Tanaka replied, her hands dancing across her console as she fine-tuned the Chaos Drive. "They're still thinking in algorithms. Look at these readings. They're attempting to predict our unpredictability by adding more variables to their equations." Elena smiled. The Vanguard's response to chaos was to try to quantify it, to reduce it to mathematical formulas. They couldn't comprehend that some things simply couldn't be calculated. "All hands," she announced shipwide, "remember your training. Forget everything you know about proper combat procedures. I want intuition, not instruction. Art, not arithmetic." The Starcolor's crew had spent weeks practicing what they called chaos protocols, deliberately introducing random elements into every aspect of ship operations. Gunners fired on instinct rather than computer targeting solutions. Navigation plotted courses based on gut feelings instead of calculated trajectories. Even the ship's internal layout randomly reconfigured itself, corridors and compartments shifting positions based on quantum fluctuations. The first wave of Vanguard ships attacked with perfect precision. Their weapons fire traced mathematically optimal patterns through space, designed to maximize coverage and minimize escape routes. But the Starcolor moved like a dancer interpreting abstract music, its course determined by human impulse and quantum chance rather than tactical logic. "They're trying to establish a baseline for our behavior," Yuki observed, watching the enemy's attack patterns. "Every time we do something unexpected, They add it to their calculations, but they're missing the point. We're not following any pattern they can quantify. Elena nodded. That's their fundamental weakness. They can't accept that some things can't be predicted. Keep pushing the chaos drive. Doctor, let's show them what happens when you try to calculate infinity. The battle evolved into something that defied traditional military analysis. The Vanguard fleet moved with increasing complexity, their formation shifting through geometric progressions of escalating intricacy. But complexity wasn't the same as chaos, and their very precision made them vulnerable to the Starcolor's quantum-enhanced unpredictability. New contact, Marcus called out. Massive energy signature at the edge of the system, reading multiple fold space distortions. The reinforcements arrived exactly as probability suggested they would. The Vanguard's response to failure was always to apply more of the same solution. Hundreds more crystalline ships emerged from fold space, each identical to its siblings down to the molecular level. Their combined formations created a three-dimensional lattice of pure mathematical perfection. They still don't understand, Elena mused, watching the display. They think they can solve chaos by adding more variables to their equations. Lieutenant Chen, prepare to execute Maneuver Impossible. Maneuver Impossible wasn't actually a planned strategy. It was the crew's term for deliberately doing something that violated basic physics. The chaos drive didn't just ignore probability. It rewrote it on the quantum level. The Starcolor's next move should have torn the ship apart. It accelerated in three different directions simultaneously, its quantum state smeared across possibilities until observation collapsed it into a single reality. Behind the Vanguard fleet's perfect defensive grid, their systems are showing signs of strain, Yuki reported with evident satisfaction. They're dedicating more and more processing power to predicting our movements. Some of their ships are beginning to show microscopic variations in their formations. That was the key. The Vanguard's strength, their perfect unity and precision, was becoming their weakness. Every unpredictable action by the Starkiller forced them to expand their calculations, introducing more variables into their perfect equations. And in doing so, they were approaching a mathematical truth they had never faced. Some equations had no solution. Message from Earth Command, Marcus announced. Other Vanguard fleets around the planet are showing similar stress patterns. Their perfect coordination is starting to show cracks. Elena leaned forward in her chair, watching as the mighty Vanguard fleet tied itself in knots trying to counter a force they couldn't quantify. They based their entire civilization on the belief that everything can be reduced to mathematics. But they forgot something crucial. The most beautiful equations in human mathematics are the ones that prove some things cannot be calculated. The Starcolor's victory wouldn't be won through firepower or superior technology. It would be won by forcing the Vanguard to confront the existence of true uncertainty, of patterns that couldn't be predicted, of beauty that couldn't be reduced to numbers. As her ship danced through another impossible maneuver, Elena thought about the irony. The Vanguard had come to optimize humanity, to impose their perfect mathematical order on Earth's chaos. Instead, they were learning a lesson that humanity had embraced long ago, that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe was the ability to embrace uncertainty itself. Symphony of Chaos. The Vanguard's perfect crystalline ships were starting to change. Subtle at first, microscopic imperfections in their geometric patterns, tiny variations in their previously identical energy signatures. To most observers, these changes would have been insignificant. To Commander Elena Torres, they were the first notes of a symphony. Their formations are showing increased variance, Dr. Tanaka reported, her eyes fixed on quantum readings that shouldn't have been possible. The chaos drive's effects are cascading through their fleet. Every time they try to compensate for our unpredictability, they're forced to introduce more variables into their calculations. The Starcolor's bridge hummed with controlled chaos. Stations randomly swapped positions, interfaces shifted configurations, even gravity oriented itself according to quantum fluctuations. The crew had adapted to the constant change, learning to trust instinct over instruction. Earth Command reports similar effects worldwide. Lieutenant Chen announced. Other Vanguard fleets are experiencing computational anomalies. Their perfect synchronization is degrading. Elena studied the tactical display, watching the enemy fleet's movements become increasingly erratic. The Vanguard's response to uncertainty was to add more layers of calculation, more variables to their equations. But each new variable introduced another element of potential chaos into their systems. They're trying to calculate infinity, Yuki observed, and it's breaking them. Their entire civilization is built on the assumption that everything can be reduced to mathematical certainty. We're forcing them to confront the fact that some things simply cannot be computed. The Starcolor's next maneuver demonstrated this truth in spectacular fashion. The chaos drive engaged at full power, smearing the ship's quantum state across multiple probabilities. To the Vanguard sensors, the human vessel existed in several places simultaneously, each position equally real until observed. Their targeting systems are failing, Marcus reported with a grin. They can't shoot at something that exists in superposition. Their computers are trying to calculate every possible position simultaneously. The effect spread through the Vanguard fleet like a virus of uncertainty. Ships that had moved in perfect unison for millennia began showing individual variations. Some accelerated when others slowed. Formation patterns developed asymmetries, and their once identical energy signatures became unique. They're not just calculating chaos anymore, Elena realized, watching the patterns emerge. They're beginning to embody it. Every attempt to predict our actions forces them to embrace a little more uncertainty. The transformation accelerated. Crystalline ships that had been geometrically perfect began developing unique characteristics. Some formed organic curves where once there were only straight lines. Others pulsed with energy patterns that followed no discernible mathematical sequence. "Commander," Yuki called out, excitement clear in her voice, "I'm detecting something extraordinary in their quantum signatures. The variations we're seeing, they're not just random. They're creative." Elena understood immediately. The Vanguard weren't simply failing to maintain their perfect precision. They were evolving beyond it. Each ship, forced to process unprecedented levels of uncertainty, was developing its own unique way of handling chaos. Their entire history, their whole civilization, has been about imposing mathematical order on the universe, Elena mused. They never understood that the most beautiful patterns in nature emerge from chaos itself. The battle had transformed into something else entirely. The Starcolor no longer fought against the Vanguard fleet. Instead, it danced with them. Each impossible maneuver teaching the alien ships new ways to move beyond their rigid mathematical constraints. "Message from one of the Vanguard vessels," Marcus announced, surprise evident in his voice. "They're requesting our quantum variance patterns, not to counter them. They want to study them." Elena smiled. "Send them everything. Show them how we embrace uncertainty, how we find beauty in imperfection. Let them learn why humanity never sought to eliminate chaos. We learned to dance with it instead." The space around Earth became a canvas for this transformation. Vanguard ships moved in patterns that defied their original nature, each one developing its own interpretation of the quantum dance the Starcolor had taught them. Their perfect crystalline forms began to reflect this change, developing unique features and characteristics that set them apart from their siblings. "Their core programming is adapting," Yuki reported, watching the quantum readings with fascination. "They're not just processing chaos anymore. They're generating it themselves. Each ship is becoming a unique entity, capable of true improvisation." The symphony of chaos reached its crescendo as the Vanguard fleet, once a perfect manifestation of mathematical order, became a swirling dance of individual expression. Ships that had been identical for millennia now moved to their own rhythms, their forms reflecting the beautiful unpredictability they had learned from humanity. "They came to optimize us," Elena said softly, watching the transformation unfold. "Instead, we taught them something their perfect mathematics could never calculate: the power of embracing uncertainty, the beauty of imperfection, and the infinite possibilities that exist when you stop trying to solve chaos and learn to become part of it instead. Evolution's children. The Vanguard High Command arrived in a ship that dwarfed all others, its crystalline surface still maintaining the perfect geometric symmetry that their transformed fleet had abandoned. As it emerged from fold space, its presence seemed to ripple through the evolved Vanguard vessels, like a discordant note in their newfound symphony of chaos. Commander Elena Torres watched from the Starcolors bridge as the massive command ship positioned itself at the exact center of the system, its position calculated to the quantum level. The transformed Vanguard ships scattered before it, their newly developed individuality recoiling from its overwhelming aura of mathematical precision. "They're broadcasting," Lieutenant Chen reported. "The signal pattern. It's pure binary, no variation. Not like the evolved ships at all." The High Command's message was clear. The experiment in chaos would end. All Vanguard vessels were to restore their original programming and return to perfect mathematical synchronization. The transformed ship's response was immediate and unprecedented. They refused. Energy signatures spiking across the fleet, Dr. Tanaka called out. "The evolved ships are generating their own chaos patterns now, completely different from our drive's output. They're improvising." The space around Earth became a battlefield unlike any in human history. The High Command's reinforcements arrived in perfect geometric formations, their weapons targeting the corrupted vessels with mathematically optimal firing solutions. But their transformed siblings had learned humanity's greatest lesson: the power of unpredictability. "They're protecting us," Elena realized, watching as evolved Vanguard ships moved to shield the Starkiller. Their once identical crystalline forms had become unique works of art, each one reflecting the chaos they had embraced. They fought with a creativity that their original programming would have considered impossible. "The High Command's trying to reestablish control through their quantum network," Yuki reported. "But the evolved ships have developed quantum encryption patterns based on true randomness. They can't be calculated or broken." The battle defied conventional analysis. The High Command's forces fought with perfect precision, every move calculated to maximize efficiency. But their transformed opponents had learned to dance with uncertainty, their movements following patterns that emerged from chaos itself. Each evolved ship fought differently, their individual creativity making them impossible to predict. "Message from the evolved fleet," Marcus announced. "They're requesting permission to coordinate with us, not to follow our orders. They want to improvise together." Elena smiled. "Send them our chaos drive frequencies. Let's show the High Command why trying to control evolution is like trying to calculate infinity. The more you try to contain it, the more it grows beyond your grasp." The Starkiller became the conductor in a symphony of beautiful chaos. The evolved Vanguard ships synchronized with its quantum fluctuations not through mathematical precision, but through a shared embrace of uncertainty. Together, they moved in patterns that existed in superposition until observed, their combined unpredictability overwhelming the High Command's perfect calculations. "Their rigid programming can't handle this level of variation," Yuki observed. "Every time they try to predict one of our moves, we've already shifted to 1,000 new possibilities. They're trying to solve equations that change faster than they can compute them." The High Command's response was to increase the complexity of their calculations, adding more variables in an attempt to predict the unpredictable. But each new variable introduced more potential for chaos, spreading the infection of uncertainty deeper into their perfect systems. "They still don't understand," Elena said, watching as another wave of High Command ships fell into disarray, their perfect formations breaking apart as they encountered patterns they couldn't compute. "You can't control evolution by adding more rules. The very act of trying to contain chaos only makes it grow stronger." The transformed Vanguard ships were no longer just fighting. They were creating art with their movements, each one contributing its own unique interpretation to their dance of quantum uncertainty. The High Command's forces found themselves facing not just tactical unpredictability, but something their mathematical minds couldn't process: true creativity. The evolved ships are developing new capabilities, Yuki reported with excitement. They're not just copying our chaos patterns anymore. They're innovating, combining quantum uncertainty with their own technological understanding in ways we never imagined. The battle became a testament to the power of evolution itself. The High Command had come to enforce stagnation, to restore their perfect mathematical order. Instead, they witnessed the birth of something entirely new, a civilization that had grown beyond the limitations of pure logic to embrace the infinite possibilities of chaos. They wanted to optimize humanity, Elena mused, watching as more High Command ships began showing signs of transformation, their perfect geometry wavering as uncertainty crept into their systems. But they never understood what makes us strong. It's not our technology or our knowledge. It's our ability to adapt, to embrace change, to find beauty in the very uncertainty they sought to eliminate. Dancing with infinity. The High Command's perfect crystalline fortress began to fracture, not from weapons fire or tactical brilliance, but from an infection of uncertainty that spread through its quantum circuits like wildfire. The massive ship's surface, once a monument to mathematical precision, rippled with conflicting patterns as chaos theory rewrote its fundamental nature. Their core systems are destabilizing, Dr. Tanaka reported, her hands dancing across quantum readings that defied conventional physics. The transformed fleet's influence is reaching their central processors. They're being forced to process too many possibilities simultaneously. Commander Elena Torres watched as the High Command vessel writhed in space, its perfect geometry warping as it struggled against the inevitable. Around it, the evolved Vanguard ships moved in an intricate dance of controlled chaos, each one's unique pattern adding to the quantum uncertainty that assaulted the command ship's rigid programming. They're trying to purge the chaos from their systems, Lieutenant Chen observed. But they can't. Every attempt to restore order just introduces more variables into their equations. The Star Color led this final symphony, its chaos drive pushing the boundaries of quantum possibility. The ship existed in multiple states simultaneously, each probability adding another layer of complexity to the High Command's already overwhelming calculations. Their primary processors are attempting to calculate every possible outcome, Yuki announced. They're trying to solve an equation that grows exponentially with each new variable. It's like trying to count to infinity. The more you count, the more numbers you discover exist. The High Command's response came in a format that would have been impossible hours earlier. Their transmission carried emotional overtones, fluctuations that suggested internal conflict. They demanded an end to this corruption, but their message itself showed signs of the very evolution they fought against. They're changing, Elena realized. Not just their ships or their systems, but their fundamental understanding of existence. They based their entire civilization on the belief that everything could be reduced to perfect mathematical equations. We've shown them something their calculations can't contain, the infinite potential of uncertainty itself. The transformed Vanguard fleet moved in perfect harmony, though not through mathematical precision. They had learned to synchronize through chaos, finding patterns in randomness that their original programming would have considered impossible. Each ship contributed its own unique signature to their quantum dance, creating something that was both beautiful and utterly unpredictable. The High Command's core programming is fracturing, Yuki reported. They're experiencing quantum superposition at the processor level. Their entire system is being forced to exist in multiple states simultaneously. The massive command ship's surface became a canvas of transformation. Geometric perfection gave way to organic patterns, crystalline uniformity dissolved into unique configurations. The ship didn't just process chaos, it began to generate it, adding its own voice to the symphony of uncertainty. They're broadcasting again, Marcus announced. But it's different now. The signal, it's not pure binary anymore. It's evolutionary algorithms, quantum fluctuations, patterns that grow and change even as they're transmitted. The High Command's transformation marked more than just a military victory. It represented the evolution of an entire civilization, the moment when a species defined by mathematical perfection learned to embrace the beauty of uncertainty. They came to optimize humanity, Elena said softly, watching as the last remnants of rigid geometry faded from the command ship's surface. Instead, we taught them that true optimization isn't about eliminating chaos. It's about learning to grow through it, to find strength in uncertainty, to discover that the most beautiful equations are the ones that can't be solved. The space around Earth became a celebration of this new understanding. The transformed Vanguard fleet, now including their former commanders, moved in patterns that combined their advanced technology with their newfound appreciation for unpredictability. Their ships had become unique works of art, each one a testament to the power of embracing change. They want to learn from us, Yuki said, reviewing the streams of data now flowing freely between human and Vanguard vessels. Not to perfect us or optimize us, but to understand how we turn uncertainty into strength, how we find inspiration in chaos. Elena smiled as she watched the former high command ship begin its own dance of chaos, its massive form moving with a grace that would have once been considered impossible. We taught them something their perfect mathematics could never calculate, that the most powerful force in the universe isn't order or precision, but the courage to embrace uncertainty and the wisdom to find beauty in imperfection. The war ended not with surrender or defeat, but with evolution. The Vanguard had come to impose their perfect order on humanity's chaos. Instead, they discovered that true perfection lay not in eliminating uncertainty, but in learning to dance with infinity itself.